right, I've got the woman, the myth, the legend that is Brandy Blackwell here with me today. Brandy, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. That's quite the intro, but thank you. Pep me up
Well,
on a Thursday.
yeah, it's Thursday. Date the episode. Honestly, I've had so many people hype you. When I was telling people we've been doing our women in leadership series, and they're like, "Who else you've got coming on?" And I'm like, "Oh, I've got this list of names, and there's Brandy Black." And I was like, "Oh, Brandy Blackwell's coming," and I'm like, "Yeah, like Brandy
Oh
Blackwell's
my
coming on the
gosh, that's
pod."
really nice.
So
Thank you.
you're hyped. You were hyped. So I guess that means you have to deliver on this podcast as well now.
Does
So no
it?
pressure.
Okay. All right. All right.
Um,
I'll do what I can.
do what you can. Bring your best. So I always ask my guests at the beginning of the pod to introduce themselves. So do you mind telling us a bit about yourself? You know who you are, what you do, and most importantly, how you got to where you are today, Brandy.
I don't usually introduce myself as a myth or a legend, but it's nice to be here. So thank you for having me. I have been in the restaurant marketing space in a facet of different roles my entire career. So I'm going on year 17 here as a restaurant marketer, but I actually wore a bunch of different hats throughout those 17 years. So I started at Tijuana Flats. I was there in Orlando, Florida. I was there for 8.5 years. Wore every single hat. Carried tents. I opened at 80 I say cafes because I'm used to saying cafes.
Yeah.
80 restaurants, and kind of just learned as much as I possibly could. And that's where I drank the Kool-Aid, and I was hooked for life. And then after 8.5 years, I took a leap of faith and I decided to make a change. I moved from Orlando up to Atlanta, and I took a role that was this brand new role, first person at Focus Brands to be with an off-premises title. Off-premise. Okay. So I was a director of off-premise, and I'm like, what the heck is this? I was but I'll sign up for it. Seems like a challenge. And I went to work for my now leader and CEO, Paul. And so I was excited to make a move, change, see a new brand, and just experience, a new space that was really like growing. It was brand new at the time. So 2017 is like, what is this off-premise? What is this third-party delivery? What are POS integrations? We got tablets everywhere. You're taking a bunch of percentage of our money. And so, I had to, and then, catering was in my wheelhouse, and online ordering for catering was coming out. So it was a really like, crazy time, but a fun time. And really off premise and to go and online ordering just really started booming then. So I oversaw that piece of the business, and then was eventually able to have a team to help me, really move that part of the business forward with McAllister's. And then about 2 years later, I got the same opportunity to go, really move this white space of off-premise for Dunkin' brands in Boston. So the Florida girl moves up to Boston, which is kind of nuts. Never driven in snow.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, snow tires.
Moved in February and had to Uber to work because I was too scared to drive. And so, a lot of, I said, what the heck, like, this is such an iconic brand that I had loved, since I was young. And the opportunity to work for them and really, as mature as that business is, there was opportunity, delivery, because Dunkin', is a delivery the right thing, but everybody's playing in the space. And so I moved up to Boston in 2019, and basically was able to join the digital team under great leadership and a great broader marketing team to learn a ton. So to see really cross-functionally how the teams work together and launch. Imagine COVID happens. I quickly launched delivery across the U.S. for Dunkin' across all platforms, and along with seeing a lot of the technical side and leaning into the POS integrations, the back office, the reconciliation part. Very, very close and in lockstep with cross-functional team members.
You'd have to be.
At first, I couldn't. I knew our lead of IT. If he ever watches this, he's gonna laugh. Like, did not like me and did not have faith in that I was gonna, we were gonna work well, and we worked so well together. And he became one of my best friends. And And so did lead of operations. So we had a beautiful cross-functional team that, really kind of started to understand all facets because it was such a growing part of the business. So we did that. We worked on some catering. Obviously, the COVID changed a bunch of things. The business took off. We tried to keep drive-thrus open. So it was a crazy time working from home. And then we went Inspire acquired us. But we kind of changed organizational structures. I moved over about 2.5, 3 years into my role with Dunkin' over to an e-commerce role with Jimmy John's for a short period of time. Got the opportunity to end up working for Paul again, and another Broken Egg team, which I lived across the street from the Winter Park one in Florida, so I was very familiar with. Got to get into the full serve space and really more of the culinary and beverage innovation side, which historically hadn't been in my wheelhouse. And so kind of saw all sides of the business and decided.
I was just going to say, like you've kind of touched so many sides.
All these weird different roles, which actually served me very well for brand marketing. Is not brand marketing anymore. Brand marketing is just a piece of, call it whatever, Chief Digital Brand Officer, VP of Digital Marketing, whatever you want it to be. It has a very digital and technical component to it. And I learned that pretty young, which helped me. And I learned the importance of cross-functional partnerships and within the organization that helped me kind of use that foundation to build this relationship as I came into this brand. And I've been here 2 years today.
Oh, hello.
Yeah.
Did they send you a cake or some swag or
a couple emails, but they're buried in the email inbox, but it was still nice. Okay. It's still thoughtful. So
that is nice. That is nice. I should put Vivian on blast here for my 1 year anniversary a year ago.
Yeah, you should. It's like,
I got a bag. I actually use it. So I guess,
Yeah. I remember that more than my partners in our anniversary. So I'm like, yes,
Yeah. I've actually got it framed on the wall. I have a really corny thing for our anniversary on the wall there. I will tell you. I'll share it with you afterwards. I'll show you what it is.
Okay. Yeah, do.
It's great. You remember, never forget. But okay, so that's awesome in the sense that, what I love about the story and what I love about you kind of walking me through the story, and why I always ask people to do that, is because the color it gives people on what it kind of takes and what you learn on your way to a very important leadership position. Everything you touch there was not something you kind of realized you would touch as you kind of move up, you're sort of up the ladder, so to speak. It was all just net new experiences that kind of almost like a DNA kind of matrix, they kind of feed into each other and it kind of bleeds into where you are now. And I think it's this really important point you just made there. And it doesn't just resonate with me, but I think just in general with marketing, that what is brand marketing anymore? What does it take to be a leader in brand marketing? What is it? It's not as simple as buying a print ad anymore. It's not as simple as buying a TV spot. You know what I mean? Your background and it's almost like you've got an e-commerce background as much as it is standing up online, delivery. There's just so many facets to the way the consumer can be touched in hospitality now. Mm-hmm. And in a way that it's not been an evolution for the business either. COVID was this gigantic catapult.
Go. If you're gonna wait, go. And I don't credit anything good with COVID, except that restaurants were forced to get creative and to move faster with technology, and in some ways maybe to places that we didn't need to go, but really, even in another Broken Egg, I wasn't there during that time, but there was the speed in which the team, our team expedited launching, because really we are very much a dine-in business here, but expedited the, delivering, online ordering and the catering, and, kept people employed through this, through the rough times, so that we didn't have to shut cafes down, is really, really miraculous to see. And you kind of never know what you can accomplish till you're told there's no choice. And I love that, because it actually brought, I was working till 9 o'clock at night. I had nothing else to do, and not saying that's a good thing, but I was I have no social life right now. And so why not just get more done? But cross-functionally, it brought, especially, even at Dunkin', it brought everybody closer together, because we're like, we gotta, this is gonna be hard, and we've got to go faster. And when we do it, we're like, oh my gosh, look what we accomplished together. And it does take an army. I mean, that's the most beautiful thing, is there's no way a marketer, well, unless they're, not a very good one, I don't think, can work alone. Like the days of working in your marketing and being like, well, I don't know what ops is doing, or I don't know what IT is doing, is even HR. I mean, we have a shared calendar, and we all work 90% of the time to push the same, the same initiative. Some way, shape, or form, inside, outside the four walls, through how we speak to our team members, through human resources and culture. Like, everybody is looking at the same initiative, whether it's monthly or quarterly or for the year, as a cross-functional implication in some way, shape, or form.
No, totally. And I mean, that, like, in and of itself is quite an enormous communications challenge, to like align across multiple departments inside the four walls, advertising to like the public, basically. Like, there's so many different facets of getting what the kind of true message of like the brand of Another Broken Egg is to so many different people. I mean, it's pretty cool that like you're able to articulate it that way. I mean, actually, I haven't had anybody kind of say it that way before to me on the pod, and I've had many talented marketers on the pod, and I've had many people on the pod talk about communicating with staff and communicating with customers. And I've never really kind of thought about it in the sense that, like, you share a similar, like a shared calendar, so you can just align the message across the board. Is that, like, when I think about that, like if you were thinking about, say, like Thanksgiving, for example, as a kind of period of time, would that be like you have a shared sort of like, okay, this is how we're going to talk to like customers in this period of time. Like, this is the comms message here, but like HR, this is how they're going to communicate with the staff. And you kind of have this sort of, okay, yeah, let's just make sure we align on the same, or a similar message, or the same kind of tone across the board. Is that what you're kind of getting at?
So I'll give you a good example, and because Thanksgiving is one of the 2 days we're closed. So all we say is we're closed, and everybody go rest and go rest, So
one example, I think.
One example. So I'm going to come up with something different. Mother's Day is our busiest day of the year. And mothers and fathers both love to brunch. And so they're busy days. But for Mother's Day, we work closely with, we're really not a discount brand, but what we do is, we work on promoting, we know marketing knows what women, our demographic, buy. They're more mimosas than, in general, than they are, beer or liquor, and most of the time, not all of them, but I'm making some generalizations here.
The data doesn't lie.
But I know that from the customer side. So we do, a kind of a contest for beverage sales across the system that engages both our frontline, team members, our bartenders, our servers, our operators, and we have an award system that we give out points for people who sell the cafe that sells the most mimosas during that weekend. But our marketing, guess what? It generally shows mimosas on it during the same time. And a cheers to moms. And we are basically using what human resources put in as the award system with points that we give. We give kudos to, but it's a way to showcase great employees with points or without, and that's the award. So it's like we're all based in ops, and then IT's working together on the back end to make sure nothing's goes down in that day, or we've got the right buttons in place in the POS system. So then we're all talking about the results, and we're giving kudos to those people who ended up in the top 10. And you break records, and you celebrate all those records that you break for Mother's Day. But I mean, awesome. And all the marketing's out there, saying, you can join the wait list for Mother's Day, come during the weekend, get mom a gift card, whatever it might be. And then in the inside of the four walls, whether it's POP or talking points for our team members, it all says the same message.
Yeah.
That means all tides rise. So that's the way we kind of see it. And that's just one specific example. And then we have, like catering is a huge push for us. And that's, as a mini brands, it is. And I think I think breakfast is return to work, and breakfast is growing so much that catering obviously is a big initiative. There are so many more components than marketing, catering. I can do that all day long, but like, is the menu in the right place? Do we have the right packaging, the presentation? Are the orders correct? Like, are we training at the right time when we open a new cafe? So that's 5 different people plus their teams that I just mentioned have to weigh in on that. And then we engage the franchisees and our operators, because they're really the ones that tell us a lot of the stuff that we, sit in our, in our little cross-functional meeting and would never know if we don't actually ask those questions. So we have a whole entire subcommittee that works on it, and it's team members from our support center, and then it's also field representatives and franchisees, because usually they come up with the best ideas.
I was going to say, like, totally. I mean, like, this alignment as opposed to disalignment. I think my English might have been a bit wrong there. It's like, this alignment is just like music to my ears, in the sense that, like, I'm going through this exact conversation internally here. Like, how do we align marketing with sales and our customer success so that we hear what our clients are saying? And then it's like, how do we put that into our messaging and our marketing? What are we hearing from our prospects in our sales calls, so that marketing is not this sort of like island silo, which happens all the time.
Marketing island. I like that. Marketing island. A lot of people used to, have that impression, and you kind of have to work against that stereotype.
Totally.
So, I let it know that I make them my best friends, and you also just genuinely have to have a team that truly believes that everyone has good intentions, because we all mess up. Our inbox all gets full, and we all fail to respond to things or forget. Or get overwhelmed. So, believing in your team that everybody starts with good intentions until they don't. I think that there is, and there are those situations, but overall, and trusting in the capabilities that the other team members have, and letting them, letting them feel comfortable bringing that thought leadership, whether it's your team that reports to you or cross-functional teams, I think is really, really powerful.
Oh, I mean, I think you've honestly, on a kind of from a leadership perspective, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I mean, like, I very much subscribe to that, which is like, how do I empower the team to bring me not just problems, but bring me like solutions. Like, come to me with a solution. I am not the oracle. I am not the maestro you think I am. Yeah. I might be that of marketing, but I'm like, if this is good, let's go do it. Let's test it. Let's figure it out. Like, that's what you want.
And brainstorming and collective like ideas. I even have, my team members proof things before I send it out, because I'm like, I can only use so many tools to not, how does it make this sound better, please? And and I'm not, I hire really good people so that they help me do really good things, and I let them shine, in their positions. But I couldn't agree more. I think, just really like some of the best ideas come from newer team members of the organization who aren't ingrained in the same thought process, or, tell me that all the facts come from TikTok now. So I have to learn about that's the source of the truth, not Google. I'm like, it's all changed. So, even keeping up with the source of truth is TikTok. It's TikTok. So we just launched TikTok. So I did not launch it, but one of my team members did. And she's like, you have to watch the video for this long, and you have to like it after you watched it twice, or something. I'm like, I wrote all these notes down. And she's like, otherwise we won't get the traction. I'm like, okay. So I'm and admittedly, I'm one of the few big TikTokers out there. But I will become one, because I don't have a choice.
That's fine. I mean,
unless it's not around.
I'm like, if I think of another Broken Egg cafe, here's my top of mind. Like, here's the marketing idea for you right now. Boom. Okay. You've seen the Duolingo. Do you follow Duolingo on TikTok at all, or on Instagram?
I don't.
Okay, you should have a look, and imagine, instead of the Duolingo, imagine a gigantic egg, and just like make. I think these platforms will reward comedy for engagement and fun lightheartedness. And I'm like thinking of, remember the Egg Council back in the 90s, where they had like people walking around in giant egg costumes?
Yes.
I honestly am like, that content, get it out there. I'm laughing already at another Broken Egg. I'm like, especially if you had a bit of a broken egg.
Yeah, right.
Because what I find, like, is we actually only launched on Reels and on Shorts, YouTube Shorts, by the way, which is just blown up for us. Like our content's doing so well on YouTube, and I wonder, is that because people go to learn about management stuff and they come across our videos and it shares, but it's gone super viral for our very kind of, I don't want to say stuffy because our content's not, but like it's business content. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's not like our right to play in comedy is like a little less than say like yours, where it's like you can, those platforms reward.
You do both, you know.
Yeah, you can be very rewarded in that sort of sandpit, so to speak.
Yeah.
But
well, I think YouTube is where people, you know, if you don't know something between Google and YouTube and TikTok, like you should be able to figure it out. And that is something I didn't have 10 years ago, like when I was trying to do marketing things. So, so we are privy to information, and I think that's been, it's overwhelming at times, but it's also it definitely has changed to a digital resource environment, and it's what you make of it, and you know what you do. And we have 100 cafes now. I don't think I ever actually said that. We hit 100 last month.
Congratulations.
In April. So we opened our 100th location, and huge milestone. We're opening like 17 to 18 this year. So, you know, the more we start to look at ways to, as we get, you know, again, we're in 16 states. So, you know, we have some regional penetration, but otherwise, you know, as we continue to kind of get into certain regions and really get more tailored with our message in, or even cuisine, those regions, you know, some of these marketing tools that we have that are, you know, and understanding the guest and understanding maybe the guest in New Orleans is because, you know, we're Southern inspired, but they do not like certain gumbos. They do not like certain jambalayas. And they, you know, they tell the difference in like one ingredient. So I'm scared to death to launch that there, but you know, those are the types of things that are really, really cool from the technology standpoint.
Totally.
To pivot and to understand that without just guessing, because not everybody has a ton of money for, you know, consumer insights, and you don't always have that in real time. So some of them in the CRM that we have and the new, it's just, you know, it's actually being able to say, what is the lowest hanging fruit? How do I actually, for my business, because every business is not the same, it doesn't have the same needs. How do I take that information, my tools and resources, and help with scalability, but also help understand uniquely who, you know, what Alex likes, and what Alex likes because he's from New York, or say, you know, and it's, you know, the pizza's different. Anything you do is different in some way, shape, or form when you start to look at it from a regional standpoint.
See, what you've hit the nail in the head on something that I was probably going to ask you. Maybe I wasn't going to ask you, but you've brought it up, so I'm delighted you did. Which is like, you know, taking that test and learn mindset with data, and you've got the locations to do it. So you could be like, okay, this jambalaya or whatever you were saying down the south. What was the bowl?
Gumbo.
The gumbo, whatever that bowl is. Sorry, everyone, I'm Irish, okay? We don't have these things, okay? And we got a McDonald's in my town when I was 10.
I'm gonna have you try some gumbo. I can't really ship it, but we'll make that happen at some point.
And the reason I say that is because, like, you can pick a location at any time of day, at any day of the week, and test something on a menu and go, okay, in this location, we know that, like, we can kind of get this kind of return. We can hype it with this kind of email in that kind of location. Like, you could, to this kind of person, like the segmentation that you can do to understand and be like confident in a way that even 10 years ago you couldn't be, you know,
even 3 years ago we couldn't be. And to be honest, I don't think I'm much different than the vast majority of brands out there. I would say the vast majority of restaurant brands are still trying to understand what to do with all of the data that we're collecting and how to really take it and action on it in a personalized way, and in pretty real time, you know, because marketing budgets aren't endless. Like, you know, in the restaurant space, we generally have a lower marketing budget than other industries. And I think, you know, how do we use that dollar, you know, continue to like take those dollars and, you know, use them more wisely and get more, you know, more of a return for our, you know, our franchisees and our team members in our cafes, because, you know, candidly, we have the digital media, we have the tools. It's just taking that, you know, couple million people in your database and making sure that we're talking to them with the right message, you know, in essentially the right time, and we're not 2 days late, 3 days late on that. And that's that's some of the tools of the automation and the triggers. But what provides value to you, Alex, is not what provides value to Joe. And it's like rewarding your team members. You don't everybody. Maybe everybody does love a day off. So that's a bad example. But, somebody might not drink coffee. Don't go get them a coffee gift card. And just because you like, Dunkin' doesn't mean they do. So kind of getting personalized, I think about that in every way. Like, what do I ask my team members about their weekend? Do I remember that they had a VPK daughter graduation? Did I ask about that? I think those are the same things. And asking the operators, it sounds, so we're piloting some different things and also testing, some different great culinary items. And the first place I start truly is walking into cafes and talking directly to the operators, hosting calls that are with operator feedback, or doing surveys where they don't mind. They'll blast you a lot more on email and tell you what they think in a survey than they will, especially if it's anonymous, versus or in person, they tell you what they think. But, on a call, it's kind of impersonal.
Totally.
When we get into the cafes, the frontline teamers, they'll tell you everything. They'll tell you, they love to say, and sometimes you say, oh, so you don't use that iPad that we put in here. She's like, no, it barely works. I'm like, okay, well, that's good to know, and then we literally do, my team walks in and does, with a tablet, samples food, and ask directly what a customer thinks about it. And yes, we have digital tools to do that too, but there's something so valuable about hearing it firsthand from the people who are experiencing it and getting those little details that, oh, this one thing is prepped on the steam well and tends to get watery. And if I just added this ingredient later, we learned chop the chicken on the salad instead of putting it as tenders. Like, people appreciate that. Those are things you don't really learn unless you're really close to the information. So I try to dig into the raw details and build those relationships with our operators so that they actually feel like they want to come to me versus me having to pull information out of them or feel like, oh, you never call me unless you need something. So I think, and it's tough. It's tough to discipline yourself to do that. But my team trains in cafes once every 6 months, goes back in and works every shift to make sure they are close to any new technology and watch that KDS screen. There's this weird things that I think really, really change the way we market and help us.
It's amazing you say that, because prior to me working in tech, I used to work in a thing called design consulting. So inventing new products and services for companies. And we used to call it going on immersions and going on safari, where we would just go for like a month, 2 months. And I would just sit with, like, if I was doing like a pharma product, and it was like, I would meet like the sickest patients, and I would just sit there in their home and just chat to them for an hour and a half. And like, sometimes they'd be very upset, sometimes they'd be very angry, but it's the candidness of the experience and the environment, seeing how like people operate the world they live in, are the little nuances that you kind of miss, to your point, when you're on the phone. I always use the example, I don't know if this is kind of interesting, I guess, to your point though, like what you said, like chopped chicken versus like, say, tenders. I remember I was doing a project for rheumatoid arthritis, and I was going to meet all these patients that were incredibly sick and had failed multiple lines of therapy. And it was like, what are they going to do next, kind of thing. And I noticed in everybody's homes, okay, and I would go to people's homes, nobody had any doorknobs.
Yeah.
And you're like, why would they not have any doorknobs?
Well, I think I could guess.
Because they have such pain in their wrists.
It's so hard
they all had sliders couldn't hold anything. And then they were all showing me this Pfizer water bottle they had, okay? And they were like, this Pfizer bottle, this is like such BS. And I'm like, why? And it's like, it won all these awards, but it's terrible. And I'm like, why? And they were like, look at it. And it had like this screw top, which ergonomically makes sense, but it was a liter. So when they filled it up, it was too heavy for them to carry.
Gosh,
do
you think that's probably not something they're going to think about telling you about their water bottle on the phone? And also it evokes emotion, and it connects you with you just want team members to show up in a day, you're running all these, you're running out of supplies, things are extensive, it's stressful in the cafe, and being able to kind of see that makes you also say, I'm not going to throw the kitchen sink at everybody right now, because it is a lot. And if ops is throwing this, I'm throwing marketing, and we're all working, you know, independently. We've got 4 things that this poor, you know,
in the front line
cafe. I say poor because I'm thinking of one specifically close to the office that gets every test under the sun. And, you know, they're still running an operation and dealing with the same challenges that our industry deals with. And it's every year is it's a different challenge and a food cost, or, you know, or you don't know what's going on in their personal life. And not that you have to pry, but certainly that shows up in the workplace, whether it's in the support center and so having a little more, you know, compassion, empathy, to those personal situations. Like everybody has something going on, and to what degree that impacts them and their work and their happiness and ability to perform is really important to someone to understand, so you can, you know, be your best, you know, as best as a version of yourself as you can, right? I need sleep. I prioritize it. That's why I don't do 9 o'clock meetings, right? So there are things that I think are innately very important to understand, that are not like, you don't have to be a marketer. You have to be like a human who actually has worked in this space and understands the challenges that are so much broader than marketing. And until you're in the cafes and you see it firsthand, you know, I watch the amount of SKUs we have, and I watch the line cooks. I'm going, even if I could cook well, like this is so complex. I mean, it's so complex, and we made it as easy as possible for, you know, with tools, but it's like, it's an art. And I have a lot of respect for that. And so I think, you know, layering on like, you know, delivery orders in the middle of a Saturday when we're slammed and, you know, wait for an hour, he's not always that welcome, but, you know, it's a balance, I think, right?
You know, and that, but it's being able to acknowledge that, being able to see that, have the self-awareness to understand like the enormous pressure that's ultimately on the front line from so many different angles, like the SKUs to the marketing to the actual just running of the restaurant itself. People
just, you know, people that get angry, like it's just managing emotions, you know, and I try to also let them know, like, you know, I'll get my hands dirty. I don't sit around and just eat bonbons. Like I think people think marketing people do sometimes, but
you're telling me.
I like to demyth. I like to make that not a myth. That's the one non-myth part about what I like to try to execute.
I might have in my previous life, but not anymore. That's for sure. But here, tell you, I mean, all of that ladders up to what I wanted to ask you about, which is like, look, you are an FSR rising star. Top 20 under 40. Did you know that? You are a top 30.
I'm 40 this year. I just made the cut.
Yeah, you're in.
I said I almost ran out of time.
You're just in. It all counts. They all count. You know, mom's proud. You know, and you got Lunchbox's top 30 women in food also this year. You know, and I love Lunchbox.
That was a shock. That was a total shock. So yeah, it was exciting.
So you're in that, and you're an advisory board member of the BWG Strategy Company, and you are FSR's Next Gen Casual Council. You're on that, and you are what I really am like keen to lean into is Women in Restaurant Leadership Council, also from FSR. And that's kind of how we I don't want to say discovered you. It's not like this is American Idol and we just got you on stage and we discovered you.
Don't ask me to sing because we'll get cut off. And then,
that will definitely
it'll be an automatic cut.
But all this ladders up to like what you were just saying there, you know, like understanding, you know, the staff, understanding the experience in the restaurant itself, in the 4 walls, in the kitchen, you know, like that's leadership right there. You know, like you're in a position of leadership, but like you are seeing and experiencing, and you're like, I'm getting my hands dirty. I'm not just eating bonbons, you know, I'm getting my hands dirty.
I wash them before I eat the bonbons.
That is good. That's good. That's good to know. And but like you're on like say all these different leadership positions, you're on boards and whichever, you know, and that's amazing. I mean, and it's clearly just like signals that like you are a phenomenal operator and phenomenal in your job. And I'm curious, you know, because the Women in Restaurant Leadership Council, for example, only inaugurated this year. Like this was the first year I think they did it. And you were there. And do you want to tell us about your experience and like why you wanted to be involved? Like you know, give us the 101 about why being there.
Sure. Well, you know, I will say that I absolutely respect and adore Kelly Evergreen and Danny Klein over there from the FSR and QSR, side. And I dropped their names because Danny's a Gator. That's he like I am. So he innately has a little bit, of love for that. And then, Callie is just amazing. I built a relationship with her a while back, and just they're such genuine people who really, really care about the industry and care about spreading the word, especially helping support growth of women's careers in this space and leadership and with women. And, there's been a couple women focused conferences, but not so much in the solely restaurant space. There are others, but they're not frequent. And there were men there too. So I don't want to, say that it's all women, but it was primarily women. And the coolest thing was when I got asked to join. Not only is it an honor, it's I knew so many people on the council, and I was like, gosh, it has been through not just going to conferences, it's been through, reaching out to these women, to hearing, to respecting them from afar, to then meeting them and people that were iconic to me, that were, the first women to be leaders in this industry, to people who are asking me for advice now, and mentorship. And that to me is so cool. Like just, I try to take anybody who asks to have a conversation with me. I try my best to do that at some point, because I knew how much that meant to me throughout my career. And female, leadership is becoming more frequent, but being on this council showed me that these women are, we're able to talk about the same challenges we face. We're able to talk in an open environment, and we're able to talk about, how we continue to have a seat at the table, and, and what our insecurities are, what our challenges are with work-life balance, what we feel pressure, and it was a very raw conversation. And I think at the first women's in restaurant leadership conference that FSR put on back in February in Nashville, it was just like a powerhouse of women just like dominating the place. It was so cool. And,
it was unbelievable. I was like, this is
cool.
like taking over my internet. And I was like,
I was just like, and it was genuine, because people didn't share for any other reason besides they were empowered to talk about our stories, and then get up there and be vulnerable on stage, and let your hair down a little bit, like wear whatever you want. We weren't showing up for men. Now, don't get me wrong. I have always felt as though I could either let my thoughts of being a female, Henry, or I could, decide that I was gonna treat myself as an equal unless I found out otherwise, right? So I think there is an element of, confidence and believing in yourself, and getting in those, in standing up and thinking you are equal or better if that's the case. Because sometimes, we get in our heads, we shouldn't make as much money, we don't want to ask for as much money. But if you earn it and you believe you're qualified to make that much money, it shouldn't, you should ask for it. And I think I was challenged with that, especially younger. I still am. I think asking for that, feeling like, I'm kind of scared to ask for money, or I'm scared to ask for a role that I want, or a responsibility. I think we're growing the women are growing in this space, and we're starting to empower each other to have that seat at the table and ask for what we want. And you're seeing it in the bosses of the CEO world that are female, and no longer do you have to be, it's women in marketing. Like, women are CEOs now, women are, leaders, and they should, be equal to anybody, male or female, really.
Yeah, no, I mean, and obviously the sentiment is phenomenal, and it goes without saying. And I think like the importance of an event like the Women in Restaurant Leadership sort of summit, is to show everyone what phenomenal leaders there are. Because I mean, like, if you look at I was looking at McKinsey data for running this Women in Leadership program, and it's 49% of entry-level workers in restaurants and hospitality are women, but about 22% of executive level are women. So like there's
I think
obviously
I saw that same stat, and I was a little bit surprised. Like 1 in 5 are
like
a leadership position, which even now you think would have maybe been 2 in 5, but it is that surprised me as well.
Totally. And like, I mean, that's why we do this. That's why we're on our side, like talking and like just, ambassadorily doing this, you know what I mean? Like as in, and that's why, that summit exists, because that number is still shocking. Like the fact that it's
and the thing like sold out, women are like, and then there was FOMO going on, and I got text and like, you have an extra ticket. Can you help me get in? Because you're on the advisor board. And it was like, it was the place to be, honestly. And, I don't want to go without saying that, I'm also on the marketing execs group steering committee within the National Restaurant Association.
Yep.
It was full of a ton of women on that committee who are turned into like best friends of mine. There's 3 guys and they are fabulous too. So, and I couldn't do it without them, but I will say, and shameless plug there, but I do think, all of these experiences and all of these connections that we've missed so much, especially during COVID, and realizing like, we're able, I think after COVID too, we feel more like we're able to be honest. You saw my dog, you've seen somebody walk in the background, you've heard the noises, I've spilt stuff, it started to make people be able to be more authentic, truly, and realize that we all face a lot of the same struggles, challenges. We all struggle with work-life balance in this space, some more than others. And we all struggle with being, exhausted, tired, too busy, inboxes. And we all are looking for ways to feel okay about that, and to give advice on how we manage that and feel like we're not failing as, I think men feel it too, but women aren't, failing as not as letting their family down or letting, others, friends down when they're not responsive, or team members. So it's a constant, evolution. And this is just putting a forum there for women to be raw and honest and be able to help each other move forward. And I think a CEO, female CEO should only be a CEO if they're deserving of it. But now I think the stigma of that being a male role is very much changing.
Totally.
LinkedIn and the things are able to let everybody in social and are able to see that in action. And so in some of the publications like FSR and all that, highlighting like Kai Palmer, she's one of, she's great. She came out to speak at our steering committee. She was on the FSR magazine. I'm like, she's just a boss, right? And I think people like that who I know, and then I watch their success. It's really gratifying. It's really gratifying for me.
No, that's awesome. And I mean, that's exactly it. You know what I mean? It's just like fostering the connection, just like making people aware that this exists, like that the support exists, that, and it's amazing you mentioned social as a way for people to see it. I mean, that's how I saw it. You know what I mean? It kind of came into my orbit in a way that maybe
LinkedIn's my Facebook. LinkedIn's my Facebook now, which is like, I'm not saying
such elder millennials now.
I mean, I'm opening LinkedIn like I used to open Facebook or Instagram to check if anything. Like, I'm not even doing anything. It's just like a open app, like repeatedly.
Are you the kind of person that looks at like who viewed my profile?
Not very often. Not very often. If I was looking for a job, of course I am, right? But if I'm not, so I used to, because I was like, it was like interesting views. I was like, I
was like, whoa,
several years ago when I was like really hoping that, when somebody important looked at me, I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah. Now you're the important person.
I got a message from, Greg Creed, who I love, and Yum. And after I met him, and I was like, oh, Greg Creed sent me a message on LinkedIn, and I'm reading his book right now. So he's so nice, and he's so great, and he's such a funny individual, and he's done so many cool things. And so, I was like honored. I still am, actually. So I like geek out. Like, it's like, I geek out way more on that than meeting like any like other like celebrities. Because they're just like, that's what's iconic to me. And it could be a man, and there's, other females who sent me a note or actually like something on my thing. And that's more meaningful than I viewed my profile. Like,
yeah. I know. I love why
who's this quack? No, that's what they're thinking about. No, I'm saying about who's this quack, like about me looking at, like they're like, what's she doing?
You're the leader now, looking at that person's profile.
No, you know what? I just connect with people, and part of any of my success so far has been becoming even more real, authentic, but getting out there, networking, not being afraid to say no. I anytime I was like terrified to speak on a panel, I just said yes and I did it. And it got easier. And it's not even easy now. It's easier. And, so I think as you realize, like as time goes on, or you're at a conference or somebody introduces you because they want, you to meet their friend in the industry, and it just builds this beautiful network of people that you can go to if you have a question about a vendor or provider, or I never have to, like, if I have any question, I have like 10 people. I just got to think about who I'm going to call that I can ask in a question that I'm too embarrassed maybe to ask out on LinkedIn, to the public. But it's true. And it's like,
I'm the same.
This restaurant industry is so beautiful. And I don't want to use the word incestuous because I think it's like, it's a negative word, but it is very much like you cannot burn bridges very easily and expect to get very far, because you're always 1 degree of separation away from everybody. And your reputation is a lot of it. And, not everyone's going to love you, but it will get around if you don't, you're not kind to people, and you're not, you're not doing things humanly right.
I was going to ask you for your words of advice to sum up the podcast. And
I got so many. I'm kidding.
What would you? Okay, here's a question for you. What would you give?
No, I'm kidding.
What would you? What advice would you give to your 25-year-old self who's in the restaurant business looking to get to where you are today?
Take chances. Take chances. And there's that's a loaded thing to say. What I mean by that is, if you want to ask somebody that you see from afar on LinkedIn to have a conversation with you, or you want to go up. I did this at the women's leadership. There's a particular CEO that I had always known about, and I wanted to meet him. And I was like, "Aren't you so-and-so?" And I just went up and shook his hand, and now we talk in LinkedIn and different things. And he invited me to a dinner at the restaurant. That's how easy that is. And we're so afraid to fail or have somebody not acknowledge us, and they might not, right? And you got to be willing to be okay with that. And you got to start somewhere, right? And taking chances. I said, never say no. Say no once in a while, but not very often, to things that are outside of your comfort zone, because it just gets easier to make bigger moves and bigger changes over time. And you don't kind of realize it until you've gotten through that experience where you thought you were going to like have an anxiety attack in the middle of, the speaking experience. And then you're like, I did this, I can do the next thing. And then the other thing I love to say is the difference between good and great truly is confidence. And sometimes you just got to say, okay, I don't know some of the things this role is asking for, this job description, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure it out. And then you go and do it. And you're shocked that you actually could have, that you figured it out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Brandy Blackwell, you've been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the pod.
So fun to talk to you, and love the partnership.